That's one of the best ones we've had yet.
You did the Canty intro, no problem, seamless, no awkwardness. That was great,
He
Jenna
almost
Wolf.
terrified me.
You did great. Wow, like watching the baby take her first steps.
People at home won't know.
Oh, they know, Jenna.
Okay.
That's the first time watching this show. They know.
No, I think that was more like a number 2. Thank you. Good girl. Good girl.
Anyway, let's move on to real words. Despite many calling this a down year for the Patriots, at least in the regular season, the team averaged 27 points per game, 4th most in the NFL. This postseason, they're averaging 39 points. Good luck defending against that. Unless you're Wade Phillips, even though this is the first trip to the Super Bowl for the majority of the Rams team, they have a calming force in Phillips, their D coordinator, who has won a Super Bowl. Bill Belichick spoke about Wade Phillips and the Rams defense yesterday.
I don't think they're going to, we're going to see like 3 new fronts and 3 new coverages in this game that he hasn't run in the last 30 years. I mean, I just don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, we'll adjust to it. But that's they do what they do in their system. They do it well. They have a lot of confidence in it, which they should. He's been successful everywhere he's been. He's been doing it for 30 years in multiple organizations with multiple groups of players against every kind of offense he could see. So, yeah, I remember dealing it with him when I was in Cleveland. It's basically, and to his credit, there's not many of us that have a system that can last that long. And, I've certainly changed a lot in the last 30 years, schematically. Wade really hasn't. I mean, he really hasn't.
All right, Chris Canty, what do you think? What should the Patriots expect from Wade Phillips and that defense?
Well, I think they can expect that Wade Phillips is going to change it up a lot on Tom Brady. When you're playing against a quarterback that has that much experience and that has a reservoir of information, you got to change up the looks on him. You can't remain static as a defense. And now that's by the pre-snap disguises that they have, that secondary will try to confuse Tom Brady based on what they're trying to do, but also being able to change up the calls. When you look at that AFC Championship game going back to 2015 in Mile High Stadium, when Wade Phillips was the defensive coordinator for the Broncos, he did a lot of that changing it up on Tom Brady. They came out in that game in zone coverage. That was something that was unique for that Broncos defense just because they were so good in the secondary in that game.
Yeah, but and that was the same thing they did to New Orleans last week. The first meeting during the season, they blitzed them, played man-to-man. New Orleans ran up and down the field on them. Micah Thomas destroyed them. In this game, the NFC Championship game, they went back to that conventional defense that he played in Denver.
Absolutely. It was zone coverage. Then he came out with man-free, straight man coverage. Then he went 2-man. So he just kept changing it up on Tom Brady. But in the first half, you had a lot of zone coverage. In the second half, they went back to a lot of straight man-to-man. Maybe a little bit of man-free with one single high.
Yes.
But that's the thing that you have to do with Tom Brady. You have to continue to switch up the looks on him because he's got so many answers based on the defenses that you try to present to him. If you remain in the same look, he's going to pick you apart. So you have to switch it up on Tom Brady. That defense can't be static.
And that conference championship game that you're referencing is one of the worst playoff games of Tom Brady's career. He completed less than 50% of his passes, had more interceptions than touchdowns, had a quarterback rating sub 55. One of the playoff games that actually might be worse than that was a divisional round playoff game against the Chargers. That was another Wade Phillips defense in 2006. Like, that was a game where Brady had 3 interceptions to 2 touchdowns. They had that game lost on a Tom Brady interception until, the guy we were talking about earlier, Troy Brown, forced a fumble, got the Patriots the ball back. They were able to come back and win. Wade has had some success against Brady in the playoffs. Now, he's obviously also taken some losses in the regular season and the playoffs. But the reason that I think this matchup is so interesting is because Wade had Bruce Smith. Wade had J.J. Watt. Wade now has Aaron Donald. If you give Wade Phillips, with what he likes to do, a dominant front 4 guy to go along with some legitimate corners, there's so many things he can do defensively and schematically. That's what he was never able to actually fully have in Houston. He had JJ, but he didn't have the 2 corners you could trust, that you could switch, that you could run different fronts and coverages with. I'm also curious to you, Canty, what you think he's going to do as far as Sue and Donald, where they line up, where they switch, if it was one time they're next to each other, one time one's on the end, one's on the guard, like how you think they're going to use those two players with Sue coming off the best 2 games he's played all year?
Well, I think a lot of it's going to depend on the down and distance, but I've played for Wade. I kind of understand how he thinks, how he likes to call a game. What he's going to do is try to present opportunities for his difference makers to be in one-on-one pass rush situations. Now, you got to think that Bill Belichick will have some kind of plan to deal with Aaron Donald, double team him, try to do some things to make sure that Tom Brady has the opportunity to step up, because Tom Brady likes to operate from the well. He wants to stay in the pocket. But those other guys have got to come to the party. That's Dante Fowler Jr., that's Ndamukong Suh. They will have one-on-one opportunities, and Wade will scheme it up to make sure that those guys have one-on-one opportunities. It's just a matter of, will they be able to take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves?
What I expect from Wade is, and I'm going to go back to his Philadelphia days, and that's when he had Reggie White. And what I think he's going to do in this game is, I think he's going to play what the great Buddy Ryan coined as the 46 defense. And that's where you cover up the center and the 2 guards. The difference in this defense and Denver's defense, and why I don't think the Rams can be as successful as Denver was, Denver's most of their pass rush, even though they had some very underrated defensive tackles, it came from the outside. So when you get outside pressure like that, it makes Brady, Belichick, that offense, it makes the tight end either stay in more, and or it makes the running backs chip or stay in. Man, the running backs are Tom Brady's second favorite thing to be able to throw to. So when you have defensive tackles, you can mush the line of scrimmage, have the guards and the tackles take those interior, so your backs can get out and you can get rid of the football. See, part of the attack to Aaron Donald is going to be, we're going to double team him by force, numbers. Other thing is, we're going to get the ball out of our hand. He's going to be single block, but we're going to get the ball out of our hand. So that's what I believe Wade is going to go to as far as a change of pace. He will go to that Kansas City game. Kansas City, at the end of that game, their defense was awful. It was totally predictable. 3rd and 10, what did they decide to do? They're going to go 2-man every single time, and Tom Brady picked out that matchup on that slot receiver. Now, when they tried to change their coverage, when Gronk went outside of his normal traditional formation and went outside, Kansas City checked to cover 1. And Tom Brady got him both times. Fade down the sideline over Eric Berry and set him up where he ran a slant later in the game. So Wade will learn from that, and Wade has had some success. So I expect him to have a variety of 3 or 4 coverages at the end of the game that he can go to try to have success.
Nick, you said a segment 2 segments ago that Tom Brady is as precise and as smart a quarterback as there is in the league. Probably the smartest quarterback Wade is going to defend against just this season. How hard is it to confuse a guy like that?
Well, I think it has to be at the last second, right? It's got to be that you show him one thing, he sees it, they maybe check out of the play, they do whatever it is, and then you switch it late. Like, I feel like that's the only way to even temporarily confuse him.
I think people need to remove confusion from your dictionary. Yeah. Because you're not going to get in the game. If I'm playing this game, there's no coverage you can give me that's going to confuse me. The thing is, you want to shorten the time they have to react. That's what coverage is about. I want to show them something else. And when he goes under center, and when he starts to focus to get the football, then I want to give him the illusion of if it's something else. Now, unless you physically feel like you're Von Miller was absolutely just physically better than them. Aaron Donald is better than them. They're not going to allow it to get to a physical strength battle or skill battle. They're going to help them with numbers. So it's about giving them less time to be able to carve you apart. That's where we should be conversating on. You're not going to confuse any of these. Jared Goff is not going to be confused. Now, can you take away his time to be able to adapt? Now, he hasn't seen what Brady's seen, so he will be a little more alarmed when he sees certain things. But Tom Brady, you just want to take away that time from him, Canty.
No, you're absolutely right, CC. And the other part about this, what Wade Phillips ultimately wants to do, it's going to depend on those corners being able to hold up, whether or not the game plan is going to be effective. Because ultimately, whether you're in zone coverage or man coverage, at a certain point in the down, it becomes man coverage. And can those guys on the outside hold up against those Patriots receivers? Let those interior defenders being able to match up against those routes that they like to run in between the numbers.
All right, Chris, stick around. Got to take a break. Coming up, how are the Pats receivers always so productive? That's next on First Things First.